and welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
So before we get into our study, this is somewhat of it's not this week's Parsha, but I've meditated long and hard about the story of Cain and Abel and the fact that Abel's offering is accepted, Cain's offering is rejected, and what happens? Abel loses his life. And that seems very ironic to me. However, I also, although I know it's been said that the Bible has little in it about immortality, I actually think there are intimations of it. Some of them are quite strong. So, for example, Psalm 27 that we were saying from the beginning of Elul through Hoshana Rabbah, which is the end of the penitential season, the last day when the gates of Tshuva are absolutely closed for the year in terms of the days of judgment. This year, in reading Maimonides' Hilchot Tshuva, chapter 8 of Hilchot Tshuva, he talks about the various metaphors for immortality, for the world of souls is sometimes what it's called. If you're not muted, just check and make sure you're muted, because I can hear some other sounds coming in. Thank you. At any rate, many of the words that are in Psalm 27, which talks about how our enemies are not able to touch us, actually are those very same terms for the world of souls that Maimonides clarifies. And it occurs to me that the reason that the whole purpose of Psalm 27 as to why God is able to protect us in this way is that we realize that this is a mortal world, that no matter what, no matter how much power one achieves, no matter how much, it doesn't really matter, because in the end, you're going to have to give it all up. And that, in fact, the reason why God is able to protect us is because even if our enemies kill us, if we, in fact, have inherited the world of souls, they're not going to be able to touch us. And I think that explains also Cain and Abel. That Cain and Abel is also a story about how individuals can try and use their anger and their jealousy and their whatever it is that motivates them to act in really hateful ways. And while they can certainly hurt people, good people, Abel was a good person in this world. Nevertheless, Abel is okay. And of course, it all is tied up with a belief in something that is transcendent, that when we abandon transcendency and the notion of transcendency, we are left only believing that whatever good we do, we have to just hope it's going to survive us. There's nothing personal about it. It's strictly about what you've tried to do. And of course, most of us are in pretty, very, very humble places. We live very humble lives. And I also believe that one of the things we want more than anything else is significance. And mortality casts a great shadow against finding significance. On the other hand, if our religion is telling us that through the mitzvot, through observing divine commandments, which essentially is a way of trying to align our lives with the divine will, we actually achieve not only significance in this world, because our lives now become devoted to that. Now, we may do it consciously, and I think there are plenty of people who don't do it consciously, who aren't necessarily using the kind of language or articulating this thought in the way that I am, but nevertheless are achieving it. Actually, I think Rabbi Akiva said it's a special privilege. This is in Ethics of the Fathers, where he says, we were given a special gift in being told that what we're doing is, in fact, achieving significance in this particular way. But that also we can feel a real sense of sureness. And that's what Psalm 27 is coming to tell us. There may be other Psalms that do it as well, but Psalm 27 is linked to a time when we are supposed to be doing tshuva. We're supposed to be introspecting, looking at ourselves and saying, what do I need to change? And where can I try to align my life with what God wants of it? And to know that in achieving that, we are immortal. We achieve immortality. And no matter what a person does, and in fact, Jewish history is so full of examples of people who tried to destroy the Jews, and we look at anti-Semitism on the rise right now. And this is where it does get into Abraham, because God says to Abraham, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse the one who curses you. That when you act that way, obviously that statement is saying there are going to be people who curse Abraham, and it's more about what Abraham stands for. That we can go through life with a certain sense of confidence, and that our tradition is trying to make sure that we don't run scared. And the fact is that, as I think it was FDR who said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And the truth is, when you look at so many elements of bad behavior and antisocial behavior, if you look and scratch deeply enough, you find fear somewhere lurking in those particular shadows. Whether it's rational fear or irrational fear, it's there. And so Psalm 27 comes to try to help us rid ourselves of those kinds of fears. And the only fear we should have is that we are not actually engaged in trying to make our lives worthy of divine pleasure. So for me, that's an explanation of the Cain and Abel, that particular conundrum. And as I'm going through things and seeing material such as Psalm 27, because I never understood Psalm 27 in this particular way, things are making a little more sense for me as far as the biblical narrative and the whole enterprise of trying to discover what it is to be children of Israel. So just thought I would share that with you as a beginning for this morning. So now I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. Unless anybody wants to comment, I'm not trying to prevent any questions or comments. Okay, I'll go into the screen share.
Well, I actually wanted to say one thing
Yes.
about Psalm 27
Yes.
is that if you listen to how I sing it,
Mm-hmm.
you'll hear everything that you were just saying, especially about, eternity and, how my soul waits for
Mm-hmm.
eternity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Thank you. That was very meaningful for me.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And I'm glad you've recorded your, how you sing that song. Thank you. Let's go into the screen share. So we are here. So we're in the midst of this story. Kathy, you mentioned something in your comment on it, and I'm not sure I understand. Are you okay explaining your comment about something didn't make sense? Can you unmute?
I can't even remember.
Okay. Check and see then on what you were saying, because I wasn't sure I understood where you were coming from on the comment, but I'd be happy to try and respond. Okay.
I was kind of half asleep because I was at work.
Okay. That's a good reason.
That was not good for me.
Okay, no problem. All right. Vayetze Melech Sodom. So remember, we're talking about this campaign about those 4 kings against the 5 kings. Vayetze Melech Sodom, Umelech Amorah, Umelech Adma, Umelech Tzvoim. We read this verse yesterday, right? That the king of Sodom and the king of Amorah and the king of Adma and the king of Tzvoim and the king of Bela, Zoar, which is also known as Zoar, that they went out, Vayarchu itam milchama, and they waged war with the four kings, Be'emek Hasidim, in the valley of Sidim. And I don't believe there's any Rashi on that, so we're going to go on with this now. Eight Kedar La'omer, so we're mentioning, this is a sort of style, right? We're mentioning these names. And I think part of this particular style, we'll keep going. Kedar La'omer Melech Elam, Kedar La'omer, the king of Elam, Tid'al Melech Goyim, Tid'al, the king of Goyim, Amraphel Melech Shinar, Amrachel, the king of Shinar, and we also know that Amraphel is another name for Nimrod. Aryoch Melech Elasar, Aryoch king of Elasar, Arba'am Melachim et Hachamishim, the four kings with the five. Here we go. Arba'am Melachim, etc. So the fact that the Torah sort of is emphasizing and being repetitious, etc. For Afal Pichein, and despite the fact that they were outnumbered, nitzchu hamu'atim okay, so that the lesser number were conquered. They succeeded in conquering the five. Lohodiacha. So the Torah is trying to let you know, shegiburim hayu, that they were mighty men of valor, that they were valorous and powerful. But afal pichein, and despite this fact, Lo nimna Avraham milirdof acharehem. And despite the fact that they had proved their valor, Abraham did not withhold pursuing them.
It's Avram, though.
Yes, it is. Here he's got Avraham, right? It's Avraham here, but his name is Avram at this point. But
You're
Rashi
right.
is referring to him, that's all. And that's why he doesn't say Avram, but refers to him as Avraham. We always talk about Abraham and we don't talk about Abram. Okay. Even though here his name is Abram, it has not been changed yet. The Emek Hasidim, and the valley of Sidim, Be'erot Chemar, it was filled with pits of asphalt or bitumen. Vayanusu Melech Sodom, and the king of Sodom and Amorah fled. Vayanusu, they fled. Vayiplu Shama, and they fell there. Vahanish Arim Hera Nasu, and those that remained fled to the mountains. Okay, fled to mountains. Rashi's got quite a bit to say about this. Be'erot Chemar. So many pits of Chemar. Be'erot harbe hayu. There were lots of these pits there. Sham, there. Shenotlin misham adama. They would take earth from there, latit shel binyan, to daub their construction, their buildings. Midrash Agada, and there's also a midrash that is based on this particular piece of information. Shahaya Hatit Mugbal, okay, Bahem, that when they fell into these pits, the pitch got kneaded into them. They were just really full of the sticky pitch. Then Nes, the Melech Sodom, and a miracle happened to the king of Sodom, Shiatza Misham, that he was able to extract himself from there. Why? Why did this miracle take place? Lefi shahayu be'umot, because amongst some of the peoples, Miktsatam, there were a few of them, Shelo hayu ma'aminim, that they didn't believe, Shenitzal Avraham me'ur kastim, that Abraham was rescued from Ur Kasdim when he was there, and that would have been under Nimrod, Mikivshan Ha'esh, from the fiery furnace. They didn't believe it. Sheyatsa ze min hachemar, because this one, that is the king of Sodom, was able to extract himself from the pit. And when that happened, Eminu ba'Avraham l'mafreya, they then believed Abraham that this had happened to Abraham previously. So this is a midrashic agadah that's based on this particular statement here. So that, of course, begs further thought and as to the point of it, etc. And what that, obviously on a very superficial level, we can say, very often we're skeptical until it happens to us. So maybe that's part of the point. Who knows? Hera nasu, again, a grammatical issue here going on. And what that means is lahar nasu. They fled to a mountain. Hara, so the word hara, kamo lahar. So this, and he's going to tell you, kol teva, any word, shetzricha lamed batchilata, that would require a lamed, and that le, that prefix, suggests to or a direction to. Okay, hitila he besofa. We can exchange that. We can remove the lamed and we can put a hey at the end of the word, and it also means in the direction of such and such a place. Ve'yesh chiluk bein hara le ha-hara. So he says there's a difference between the word hara and the word ha-hara. Shehei besofei teva. Why? Because the hey at the end of the word, omedet bimkom lamed, because in that case, the hey at the end of the word stands in the place of a lamed shebarosha that would come at the beginning of the word. Aval, okay, so he's saying there are this little parenthetical statement is Sfarim Achairim. We know that this means other versions of this Rashi have the word zo, right? That they put in this word. Eina omedet bimkom lamed. Okay, but it's saying that this, I believe he's talking about the hey here, unikuda, okay, and Sfarim Acherim, then Kod Patach. So this ha of ha-hara is vocalized with a patach, tachteha underneath it, v'hare hara kamor lahar. So he says when it's just the word hara, it is just it means to a mountain, or kamor elhar, or it means, again, this is without the prefix. This is using the word el, which means to a mountain. Ve'eino mefaresh le'ezahar, but it doesn't tell you which specific mountain it would have been. So he's telling you, okay, this has to do with the definite article, that the hey at the beginning of the word there it has to do with, it stands for the as opposed to a, right? A is known grammatically as an indefinite article, and the is known as a definite article. In other words, we know what that noun refers to. So this is exactly what he's talking about here. Ela shekol echad nas ba'asher matzahar. But in the case of saying hara or hera, see what it says, hera, okay, that it means, okay, that it's any particular mountain, right? Any mountain that they found, tchila, in other words, the closest mountain they could find. Ukeshehu noten he barosha, but when you put this other hey at the beginning of the word, lichtov ha-hara, so now you've got two heys at the beginning of the word, right? Okay. Or midabra pitrono, okay? Sorry. He's saying Hamidbara. That's what this word is, meaning to Hamidbara means to the wilderness, right? To the mountain. Pitrono, so we understand this as kamo el hahar, to the mountain, or kamo le hahar. Okay, this is to the, again, to the mountain. This is where the lamed is a prefix, or lahar. Okay. Umashma, and the implication is le'oto har hayadu, that it's to a specific mountain that's been mentioned already. In other words, that we know of. Umeforash beParsha, and it has already been explained in the paragraph that's been dealing with it. In other words, it's the definite article. So I'm sorry if that sounded convoluted, etc., but simply Rashi is trying to drill down a little bit on the grammar of the Torah right here. We'll take one more here. Vayikhu et kol rechush Sodom. They took all the booty of Sodom for Amorah and Gemara. So we have to be talking about, I imagine, the four kings. Ve'et kol ochlam, and they took all their food. Vayelechu, and they went off. They took off. So I think I'm looking to see if there's any Rashi on this. Nope. We'll take one more. Okay. Vayikhu et Lot ve'et rechusho, and they also, these four kings, took Lot and his possessions, ben Achi Avraham, the son, Lot, in other words, the nephew, means the son of the brother of Avram, Vayelechu, and again, they took off. Vahu Yoshev Bistom, and Lot, this is who means he, was dwelling in Sodom. Okay, let's take a look here. Here we go. Vahu Yoshev Bistom. Mi garam lozot. So what caused Lot this particular problem now that he was taken captive? Yeshivato bistom. In other words, it's telling what the purpose of this verse is, that it's telling us that we might say, because he was dwelling in Sodom. And see, we still have a little more time. Vayavo hapalit, and the a palit would be someone who has escaped. The one who had escaped, or the one who escaped. So notice, right? It says here is the hay with the patach underneath, and there's a dot in the next letter. That is how you deal with the definite article in Hebrew. So the one who escaped came, vayavo, vayaged la'Avram ha'ivri, and told Abram the Hebrew. And I'm not sure if this is the first time Avram is referred to as an Ivri, a Hebrew. Vahu shochen pelone mamre, and he, that is Abram, was dwelling in the Elone Mamre. Again, could be the plain of Mamre or terebinth of Mamre. Sometimes the word alon means an oak tree. Ha'emori, the Amorite. Achi Eshkol, the brother of Eshkol. This is Mamre, was the brother of Eshkol. Va'achi Aner, also the brother of a person who's called Aner. Vehem Ba'alei Vrit Avraham, and they were all part of a cohort, right, of a covenant with Abram. So they were all in league with Abram. These other two people. Eshkol, so we've got three people, Mamre, Eshkol, and Aner. Vayavo hapalit. This is actually a rather famous interpretation. Lefi pshuto, according to a simple understanding of this text, the basic meaning of this text, ze og, it's referring to Og. Og is this king of Bashan who's mentioned much later in the book of Numbers, Okay, shepalat min hamilchama, he escaped from the battle. Remember, we read about how those 4 kings who went on the campaign battled against the Rephaim and these giants, right? And were successful. So here we go. How do we know this? Vehu shekatuv, and but referring to this og, it's stated, Ki rak og nishar meyeta harephaim. It said only og remained from the remaining Rephaim, right? And that was one of the people that those four kings conquered. Vezehu nishar, and he remained. Shelo harguhu Amraphel v'chaverav, in that Amraphel and his cohort did not kill him. Keshehiku harephaim ba'ashtarot karnaim, when they smote the Rephaim in Ashtarot Karnaim. He says Tanchuma, this would appear to be the Midrash of Tanchuma. There's a Midrash by that name, Midrash Bereshit Rabbah. And according, I believe this is going to follow, so that's according to Midrash Rabbah. But in Bereshit Rabbah, which is another major Midrash on the book of Genesis, Ze Og Shepalat Midor Hamabul. This refers to Og, who escaped from the generation of the flood. Vezehu miyeter harephaim, and he is also those who remained of the Rephaim, Shene'emar, regarding whom it says Hanephilim hayu ba'aretz. That's going all the way back to early parts of Genesis, where it says these Nephilim were in the land, etc. Umit kavein shehareg Avram, and his intention, Og's intention, was sheyerag Avram, that he would kill Abraham, or that Abraham would be killed, vayisa et Sarah, and that he would marry Sarah. Again, there is a lot of symbolism involved in this, okay, as to what Abraham represents, and we know that Sarah was very beautiful. So here we go, ha'ivri, the Hebrew. Sheba me'ever hana'ar, because he came from the other side of the river, meaning he crossed the Euphrates. And there's been quite a bit of ink spilt on what exactly it means to be a Hebrew, but that's the nature of Hebrew. In other words, to cross over. And I think one of the basic interpretations is to make a life change, that he came from one place, crossed over the river, and made a major change of place in his life. Ba'alei Brit Avraham, they were part of a league with Abraham. Shekartu imo Brit, literally it means they established a covenant with him. And according to other manuscripts or editions, Davar Acher, another interpretation, Shehisiu lo Eitza al Hamila. This is really lovely. This is referring to Mamre, and it says he gave him, that is, he gave Abraham a advice regarding the circumcision, which is going to come up towards the end of this particular parsha, kamoy shemefurash b'makom acher, as is explained in a different place. So, Brit can mean a general covenant, and Brit, of course, when we talk about a bris, we're talking about the covenant of circumcision. And that's where we're going to stop today. So we're on your Dalit. Second. David.
Yeah. So after all that, which mountain did they actually, you said it was named earlier in the Parsha. Which one did they actually go
Good
to?
question. No, it isn't. Okay, very good question. So it isn't. Rashi's just simply saying that it's some specific mountain. I don't believe we know what mountain it is.
Okay.
Maybe so. At least Rashi isn't telling us what specific mountain. It's just,
Okay.
and the reason why, let me explain, David, this is very good. It doesn't say hara, it just says hera, which means these people, the remaining people, the escapees. So what he's saying is, it means they fled to a mountain, and that's the point. We aren't told what mountain it is.
Ah,
So that's why it says Hera and it doesn't say Hahara.
okay.
I'm glad you followed up with that, because I think that may explain a little bit better what I was trying to explain when we looked at that Rashi.
We may be able
Thanks.
to do a Kaddish Darabanan before people leave.
Terrific. So I'm going to stop the save and I'm going to stop the recording.